Okay, so let us now move on to our first derivation or first design in this topic, which is the design of disc type friction clutches. So let me rub this as well. So it will be design of disc type friction clutches. So now if you have already studied what I assigned you and also attended the previous lecture, you should know that what is a disc type friction clutch and how does it look like. So these basically consist of two discs that come into contact with each other, and each of this disc is mounted on one of the elements that we want to provide connection to. So here is our first element or first part, which is mounted on a shaft. It has an inertia of I1 and it is actually rotating in a certain direction with an angular velocity of omega 1. Similarly, we have our second element or second part with an inertia of I2, and that is going to rotate also in the same direction with a velocity, angular velocity of omega 2. And in order to provide an interruptible connection between these two elements, we are going to introduce the discs at the end of both of these shafts. And these discs can actually come into contact with each other or separate away whenever we want it. So in order to achieve that, we provide an actuation force F. So this F is actually called actuation force, and this is our friction clutch. So since disc type clutch is a friction type clutch, hence these two surfaces are rough. So they have a certain mu or coefficient of friction, both of these surfaces. So this is a one view of this system. If we see it from the side, so these discs will actually be circular, right? So they will have an internal diameter and they will have an external diameter or radius. So let's see, it has an internal diameter of Ri and it has an external radius of R naught. So during the design of this disc type friction clutch, what we are interested in finding out is what would be the appropriate size of these discs, what would be the actuation force required in order to engage this clutch such that this clutch would transmit a certain amount of torque or power. So we have to find out the size of the disc and the actuation force which will be required so that it transmits a certain amount of torque which is required, which we need to be transferred between these two elements. So this is our objective in all type of designing of clutches generally. So there are two methods for this particular type of clutch, disc type clutch. There are two approaches. In order to reach our objective. The first approach is to consider the discs as flexible. And in this case, we assume that the pressure distribution across the surface of the clutch or the disc is uniform. So this is uniform pressure condition, and this is based on the assumption that the discs are a little flexible. If we consider the discs as rigid as opposed to flexible, so in that case the pressure distribution cannot be uniform throughout the surface of the clutch. However, there is another quantity which can be considered uniform in this case, which is called uniform wear condition. Right? So uniform pressure, uniform wear condition, depending upon what do we assume about the nature of the discs. So let us now derive our first expression using the condition of uniform pressure. Now for this condition, we consider an elemental ring of width dr anywhere on the disc. So this was our disc. We considered an elemental ring located at a radius r from the center, and it has a thickness of dr. So the differential force that would be acting on this element, it would be dF, and we can write an expression in terms of the pressure which is uniform throughout the surface. So P multiplied by 2 pi r dr, which is the area of this element, 2 pi r dr, and where P is constant throughout. Now if we want to get the total axial force on the clutch, we need to integrate this expression. So when we integrate, on the left hand side we get an F, on the right hand side we have to integrate from inner radius to the outer radius. So Ri and R naught, and inside we have 2 pi P R dr and since P is constant, we can take it out, and the final expression would be pi P R naught square minus Ri square. Now this is the force F, which is the actuation force. This is the force required in order to engage the clutch. Now the torque can be obtained by multiplying frictional force with the radius. So the torque is obtained by multiplying frictional force and the radius. So still considering the element that we selected on the surface, so we will have the differential torque. Now since this dF is normal to the surface and the frictional force is the product of coefficient of friction and the normal force, so this is going to be our frictional force, and this frictional force has to be multiplied by the radius, which is R in this case. And if we can put the expression for dF from here, we will get mu 2 pi P R and then we have an R outside, and we have also dr. Again, in order to get the torque over the whole surface, we need to integrate, and when we integrate this expression, what we get in the end is 2 by 3 pi P mu R naught cube minus Ri cube. Right? Now as I said earlier that in a single system there can be multiple disks. This expression that we have derived, it is for a single disk. Now if we have multiple disks, we can multiply by simply a factor n, where n is the number of, you can say, frictional faces. So the number of pairs of disks that are going to come in contact, this is n. Now this expression can further be simplified by eliminating p in this expression by using our initial equation, this one. So when you work out these two equations, what you get is T is equal to n, which is the number of surfaces, mu f into 2 by 3, and you will have R naught cube minus Ri cube divided by R naught square minus Ri square. Now I invite you to use these two equations to reach to this derivation yourselves. So do all these steps, and in the end you should get this answer. So this is your torque transmitted between the surfaces. This is your actuation force. And remember, this is for the assumption of uniform pressure. That is, the pressure is distributed uniformly throughout the surface of the disc. So generally we will be given this torque requirement. This torque will be our requirement. How much torque do we want to transmit? And based on that we will be able to calculate how many number of discs, number of pairs of discs we need in order to transmit this amount of torque. Alright, so now that we have derived the expression for torque and actuation force of the disc type friction clutches using the uniform pressure condition. We now move on to our next derivation using our uniform wear condition. So here, instead of the uniform pressure, I am going to write uniform wear. So the principle of uniform wear condition is that the wear rate of the clutch throughout the surface is constant rather than the pressure, and the wear rate which is denoted by capital W, it is represented by a product of pressure and the velocity, and this product is what we are taking as constant or uniform. Now this V is actually the linear velocity at the clutch surface, and this can be replaced by a product of radius and angular velocity, and again this product is equal to a constant. Now since the angular velocity is also constant throughout the surface, so we say as omega is equal to constant, so what we are left with is P, the product of P into R is actually a constant value, and let's call this constant a constant K. Now since we are assuming that the wear rate is constant, while so this product is equal to constant, but the pressure is not constant throughout the surface, so it means that the pressure is going to vary from inner surface to the outer surface, and in fact the maximum pressure will occur at the innermost surface of the clutch, while as we move away from the inner surface the pressure will decrease. So the same expression we can actually write as P maximum, which will occur at the inner surface, and it can be equated to K. Now if we solve these two equations, the right hand side of these two equations is equal, so we can actually compare the left hand side, and what we get in the end is that P is equal to P maximum Ri divided by R. So this is the expression that we can get by solving these two equations simultaneously. Now next, we can write the same expression for the actuation force F as we did for the previous derivation. So it will be an integral of 2 pi r P and dr from the inner radius to the outer radius. Except that in this case P is not constant, as was the case last time. This time this P expression will be substituted from here. So we can write integral 2 pi r, and then we can have this expression of P max r I over r, and in the end we have dr. So this r and r cancel out, and what we get as an expression of F is 2 pi ri, which is the inner radius. Then we have this P maximum and inside we have r naught minus ri when we expand this integral. So we will get this r naught minus ri. Similarly, we can write an expression for the torque. Now for the torque, all we have to do is we have to multiply this force with the radius. Right? So when we multiply this expression of force with the radius, so this is what we get: ri r naught 2 pi r p dr, and this is the r that we are multiplying with. And again, remember, just like last time, we have to multiply by mu, because torque is equal to the frictional force multiplied by the radius. So this was normal force. This F expression was normal force. So we have to multiply by mu to get the frictional force, and then we multiply by the R. So what we will get is, we will get pi mu Ri P max R naught square minus R I square. And when we again replace this P max here by using this equation, what we will get is, we will get a simplified expression for T, which will be N mu F R naught plus Ri divided by 2. So here N again is the number of the clutch surfaces which we have introduced in this equation, and this is the expression for the actuation force. So these two expressions are applicable for the case of uniform wear condition. Now this model, this uniform wear model, I'm going to rub this part. There are a few points to note here. This uniform wear condition model, it gives a more conservative clutch rating, right? So it means that if we use this model and calculate the number of clutch surfaces or the size of the clutch, this set of formulas will give us a larger value of the size of the clutch. So it is more conservative. We call it more conservative, means it will give us a larger value. And it is actually a preferred design by the designers, preferred model. Similarly, you might have noticed this expression of P max, which appears here. So this P max is actually seen from the table. So this is the maximum pressure that can exist between the surfaces, and this we will see from a table in the book, and it depends upon the lining material. The clutch surface is lined with a certain material so that it does not slip. So different materials have different coefficient of friction and they have different P max values. So this will be seen from a table depending upon the lining material. Lastly, we obtain maximum torque transmission when the ratio of the inner to outer radius is 0.577. So when Ri over R naught is actually 0.577. So this is the ratio, this is the golden ratio that we will be using. So every time if we are given with the inner radius, we can calculate the outer radius by using this expression. So that is all for both of these derivations. Now we will move on to solving the numerical problems related to this design.